The Dragon Empress ruled a galaxy with fire, fear, and sharp golden eyes that missed nothing. Her palace stood on a mountain of black stone, surrounded by burning rivers and giant statues of old dragons. Every alien in the empire bowed their head when her name was spoken. But even the strongest rulers had problems that no army could solve. Her problem was babysitting. Inside the royal hatchery, 3 baby dragons played, or rather, destroyed everything around them. Their names were Pyra, Spark, and Grumble. They looked small and cute from far away, but close up, they were walking disasters. Pyra loved to set curtains on fire. Spark liked biting anything shiny. Grumble enjoyed roaring for no reason, scaring everyone within 10 rooms. The Empress loved them deeply. These were her first hatchlings in 100 years. But she could not spend all day chasing them, because she ruled an empire with 1,000 planets. She needed someone to watch them, someone brave, someone patient, someone who did not catch fire easily. But no one lasted long. The palace had already tried 57 alien babysitters. Some ran away screaming, some fainted, and some simply left a message saying, "Never again," before catching the fastest ship out of system. The Empress was furious. She demanded, how can 3 small dragons defeat a whole galaxy of caregivers? The guards did not dare answer. They knew the truth. These dragon babies were a danger to everyone except their mother. One morning, a new babysitter arrived, an alien with blue feathers and long wings. His name was Cerilo, and he claimed to be the best caretaker in the Andromi sector. He entered the hatchery with a smile and a large bag of toys. He believed he could handle anything. 5 minutes later, he ran out with smoking feathers. His bag of toys melted into a puddle. They roasted my snacks, he cried before flying away forever. The Empress sighed deeply. Another one gone. The royal advisors gathered in the throne room. They wore heavy armor, not because they were at war, but because they worked near the children. One advisor stepped forward and bowed. "Your Majesty, we have contacted every known race. No one else is willing to try." "No one?" the Empress asked, her voice cold. The advisor swallowed hard. "Well, except the humans." The Empress raised an eyebrow. Humans were strange creatures, soft, small, weak-looking, but full of unexpected courage. She had never understood them. They were not strong like dragons, not clever like the Andromi, and not quick like the Luraki. But they survived everything somehow. "What did the humans offer?" she asked. The advisor hesitated. They want to send a babysitter." The Empress leaned forward. "A human caretaker?" The advisor winced. Not exactly." "Explain," she ordered. "They want to send a human baby." Silence filled the throne room. "A baby?" The Empress stood slowly. "A tiny human child? In my hatchery?" "That is correct, Your Majesty." The Empress stared at him as if he had just grown a second head. "Are the humans insane?" "Most likely, yes," he whispered. The Empress walked to the balcony, thinking. Human babies were tiny, fragile, and noisy. How could one survive 3 dragon hatchlings who ate metal-like snacks? Still, something in her heart twitched with curiosity. "Prepare for her arrival," she commanded at last. Across the palace, guards rushed around. They set up shields, water tanks, flame-proof walls, and even emergency teleporters. Everyone expected disaster. Soon, a small human shuttle landed on the palace platform. Inside, resting in a floating cradle, was a baby girl with dark hair and bright eyes. She smiled at everyone as if she were on a fun trip, and not entering one of the most dangerous places in the galaxy. Her name was Mia. A human officer bowed and said, "She has a special gift. Babies sense emotions without fear. We believe she may calm your hatchlings, Your Majesty." The Empress did not believe it, but she nodded anyway. She carried Mia gently, surprised by how light and warm she felt. The baby reached out and poked the Empress's cheek. The Empress almost smiled. Almost. They entered the hatchery. The baby dragons were busy chewing on a metal pillar. When they saw the Empress, they stopped. When they saw Mia, they froze. The guards held their breath. Mia giggled, a tiny, happy sound. The dragons blinked. They had never heard anything like that. No screaming, no running, no fear. Just soft laughter that echoed lightly in the firelit room. Pyra stepped forward, slowly, her wings half open. She sniffed the air. Mia clapped her little hands. The sound startled Spark so much he fell over. Even the Empress stared in shock. The 3 dragon babies looked at the human child, then at each other, confused. No babysitter had ever reacted like this. Mia leaned forward and reached out with her small hand. The dragons moved closer. Every guard prepared to jump in. The Empress tensed. And then, one dragon gently touched Mia's hand with its warm, scaly claw. Mia giggled again. It was the first peaceful sound the royal hatchery had heard in months. But no one knew what would happen next. The dragons leaned even closer, their glowing eyes locked on the tiny human, and the whole palace held its breath. The palace had never been this silent. Every guard, scientist, and royal advisor stood frozen as the 3 dragon hatchlings leaned closer to tiny Mia. Flames flickered across the hatchery walls, painting the scene in gold and red. The baby scales glowed like living embers, but the human child only smiled. She did not cry. She did not fear. She simply stretched her hand toward them as if meeting new friends at a playground instead of 3 fire-breathing beasts. Pyra, the boldest hatchling, moved first. She poked Mia's palm with a claw barely the size of a knife. Softly, carefully, as if she knew this creature was fragile. Mia burst into giggles again, a bright, joyful sound that echoed like bells in the fire chamber. Every adult flinched. Laughter? In the hatchery? Impossible. Spark crawled closer, his wings dragging behind him. He sniffed Mia's hair and sneezed a tiny spark. Normally that spark would turn curtains into ash, but today it only drifted up like a glowing firefly. Mia caught the spark between her hands as if it were a toy. Spark's eyes widened. He squeaked in excitement. Even Grumble, the grumpy one, forgot to roar. He tilted his head like a confused puppy. The Empress stood tall, hiding her shock behind a cold expression, but her heart fluttered. She had seen warriors tremble before these hatchlings. She had seen starship hulls dented by their tiny fire blasts. But this human baby girl, she sat calmly as if she were the Empress of the dragons herself. Mia reached for Pyra's tail. "Your Majesty," one advisor shouted. "Stop her. She will—" Pyra's tail curled around Mia like a warm blanket. The advisor fainted. A scientist whispered, "This breaks every known rule of dragon behavior." Another guard muttered, "Maybe the humans enchant the baby?" The Empress raised her hand for silence. "No one moves. I want to see what they do." The hatchlings formed a small circle around the human child. Their wings created a warm shield of scales. The fire in the room softened, glowing gentle instead of wild. Mia began babbling in baby language, waving her hands and thumping her chubby fists against Spark's nose. Spark gave a tiny roar of approval, which made Mia laugh even louder. And then something impossible happened. The dragons copied her. Pyra made a funny huffing sound, trying to imitate Mia's giggle. Spark flapped his wings twice, mimicking her clapping. Grumble puffed out air in short bursts, matching her happy breaths. The entire palace staff stared with open mouths. "This is communication," a scientist whispered. "No," another corrected. "This is bonding." The Empress watched every detail. She felt a strange warmth rising inside her chest, something she had not felt for centuries. Hope. Mia suddenly tried to stand. She wobbled, lost balance, and fell backward. Pyra rushed forward and caught her with her tail. A dragon, catching a falling human. The guards looked ready to scream. But Mia only patted the tail gratefully. For a moment, everything felt peaceful. Then the peace broke. The floor sensors began blinking. The fire temperature dropped. The dragon's heart rate synced perfectly with Mia's tiny heartbeat. "Your Majesty," a technician said, voice shaking. "The hatchlings' emotions are stabilizing. Their aggression level is dropping by 70%. Because of her?" The Empress asked quietly. "Yes," he whispered. "She is calming them." But that was not all. Something deeper was happening. A glowing aura, soft and faint, appeared around the baby dragons. Not magic, not fire, something ancient, something from the oldest dragon legends. The hatchling bond, an old advisor muttered. It was only spoken of in myths. The Empress turned sharply. Explain. In ancient times, he said, trembling, dragons connected their hearts to one who understood them without fear. It was believed to bring peace or unleash great power. But such a bond has not been seen in thousands of years. And now, the Empress asked. He pointed at the tiny human sitting happily between three dragons. It is happening again. The Empress felt her breath catch. The galaxy was already terrified of dragons. If these hatchlings formed a legendary bond with a human child, their combined power could reshape kingdoms, or destroy them. Before she could speak, Mia did something unexpected. She crawled right into the center of the dragon trio and hugged Grumble's neck. Grumble, the loudest, angriest hatchling, froze. Then he made a soft sound, a sound no dragon had made in recorded history. A chuckle. A dragon chuckled. The Empress's eyes widened. The advisors collapsed in disbelief. The scientists scrambled to record everything. The dragon snuggled closer to Mia, wings folding protectively around her. A living fortress of scaled affection. The Empress whispered, "This child, she is not just calming them, she is changing them." One guard nervously asked, "Should we remove the baby, Your Majesty?" The Empress glared. "Remove her? You fool. If we touch her now, these hatchlings will burn down half the palace." She was right. The dragons growled softly at anyone who stepped closer, but they stayed gentle with Mia. Their glowing eyes watched her like guardians. No babysitter had ever survived 10 minutes. This one had become their center of gravity. But deep in the shadows of the palace, someone else was watching from a hidden monitor. An alien lord from a rival faction. His eyes narrowed as he observed the impossible connection. "A human child with the dragons," he whispered. This could threaten everything. He activated a secret transmission. Prepare a plan. The Empire must never allow such a bond to grow. The screen went dark. Inside the hatchery, Mia yawned and leaned against Spark's warm side. The dragons curled around her like a nest. The Empress felt something she had not felt in centuries. Fear. Not for herself. Not for her empire. For the small human girl, who had just become the most important and the most dangerous being in the galaxy. The sound should not have existed. A dragon chuckling was something old stories mentioned, but only as myths. Even the Empress, 1,000 years old, had never heard it. Yet here, in her own hatchery filled with fire and smoke, small Grumble, the angriest of three, released a soft, warm, rumbling laugh. It echoed through the chamber like a forgotten melody. Mia giggled back, slapping her tiny hands against Grumble's snout. The dragon pushed his head closer, careful and gentle. Every witness felt the same shiver run down their spine. History was changing. The Empress said nothing. Her golden eyes studied every movement, every breath, every flicker of dragon fire. Her mind was sharp, calculating, almost dangerous in its silence. The scientists rushed forward with scanners. A guard whispered, "Should we record this? Record?" A scientist snapped, "This is the scientific discovery of the millennium. This child may be rewriting dragon instincts." But even as they scanned readings, something strange happened. The dragons didn't like the equipment. They growled, not loudly, but warningly. Sparks glowed in their throats. Mia looked confused by the sudden tension. She touched Spark's head, and instantly his growls softened. She calms him instantly. A scientist breathed. "No technology can do this. Only she can." The hatchlings surrounded me again, blocking the equipment with their small but powerful bodies. The Empress raised a hand. "Stand back. All of you." Her command echoed like thunder. The palace staff stepped away, terrified to anger the young dragons. The Empress continued to watch and think. Dragons never trusted outsiders. They never accepted other species, let alone bonded with them. But these three, her hatchlings, were treating Mia as something precious. A small human girl had become their anchor. But why? The answer arrived sooner than expected. As Mia touched Pyra's wing, the fire in the room dimmed, not because it weakened, but because it responded to her. The flames bent slightly, like flowers turning toward sunlight. "What was that?" a guard whispered. The scientist beside him trembled. The fire reacted to her presence. That has only ever happened around elder dragons or ancient dragon bond rituals. The Empress's expression tightened. She remembered tales from her ancestors, stories dragons whispered when the moons were dark, stories of bonds so deep that dragons and another being could share emotions, instincts, even power. But that bond came with danger. Sometimes it made dragons peaceful. Other times it awakened something unstoppable. The Empress felt a cold knot form in her stomach. Before she could speak, Mia crawled again, this time straight toward a sharp piece of broken metal on the floor. Everyone gasped. The hatchlings reacted instantly. Pyra leaped forward and burned the metal to ash. Spark stood guard in front of Mia. Grumble wrapped his tail around her, pulling her back gently. It wasn't protection. It was instinct. It was bonding. The Empress whispered to herself, "She is not just calming them. She is becoming part of their mind." The tension broke when Mia yawned loudly. Grumble copied the sound with a soft rumble. Spark lay down beside her, wings folded. Pyra curled around the group, forming a protective half-circle. The three dragons and the tiny human fell asleep together. The Empress watched them with a strange mix of awe and fear. Part of her wanted to step closer, to touch the child who had warmed her fierce hatchlings. But another part whispered, danger. For the first time in her long life, she hesitated. Meanwhile, far above the palace, a dark ship floated in orbit. Inside, the alien lord from the rival faction watched the hatchery through a hacked security feed. His expression was sharp and cold. "A human child controlling dragons," he murmured. "No empire should allow something like this." He opened the communication channel. "Prepare the extraction teams. We cannot let the Empress keep that child." Back in the palace, the Empress finally spoke. "Clear the room," she commanded. The staff hurried out, leaving only her and the sleeping creatures. She walked slowly toward the baby and the hatchlings. Her armor glowed in the firelight. She lowered herself to one knee. For centuries, dragons feared nothing. But humans were unpredictable. And this child, so small and gentle, threatened to change the future. She reached out and gently touched Pyra's wing. Pyra opened one eye, but instead of snapping or roaring, she relaxed. She allowed the Empress to stroke her scales while Mia snored softly. The Empress felt a shock of emotion travel through the hatchling, a warm emotion. Trust. Dragons trusted no one, not even other dragons sometimes. Yet Pyra was sharing her feelings through touch, something dragons only did with bonded kin. The Empress whispered, "What, you little human?" As if answering, Mia rolled over and placed her tiny hand on the Empress's armor. It left a small, soft print. No fire, no power, just warmth. And for the first time in centuries, the Empress felt her own heart soften. But the moment ended when palace alarms screamed to life. Intruder alert. Unauthorized ship approaching. The Empress stood instantly, fire rising behind her eyes. Outside the hatchery, guards ran in panic. Scientists scrambled to protect their data. The alarms echoed through every hall. Someone was coming, not for the dragons, for the child. The Empress clenched her fists. They will not take her. Behind her, the baby dragons woke up as if sensing danger. Their eyes glowed brighter than before. Their wings spread. Their scales crackled with fire. The bond was growing, and now it will be tested. The palace alarm screamed through every metal hall, sharp enough to shake the fire lamps. Guards rushed to their stations. Scientists grabbed emergency tablets, and the royal advisors panicked like frightened birds. But inside the hatchery, one place stayed strangely calm. Mia sat on the warm floor, rubbing her sleepy eyes. The dragon hatchlings, Pyra, Spark, and Grumble, stood around her in a protective triangle, wings spread, eyes glowing with fierce warning. They sensed danger before anyone else. The Empress stepped between them and the sealed doors, her armor heated with dragon magic, flames curling around her shoulder plates. She looked like a living volcano ready to erupt. "Report," she commanded. A guard's voice crackled through the comm. "An unidentified ship has entered royal space. They are refusing to answer. Do they carry weapons?" "Yes, Your Majesty. Heavy weapons." The hatchlings growled in unison. Mia simply blinked, confused and curious. She didn't understand what danger meant, but the dragons understood far too well. The Empress turned behind her and stared at the small girl. How can a child create such instinct in dragons, such loyalty? One advisor dared to answer. Perhaps the child carries a rare human skill. A skill? The Empress raised a brow. Yes, humans are born with strong emotional energy. Even newborns have powerful instinctive empathy. The Empress frowned. "Explain it simply." "Your Majesty, dragons sense emotion, but humans feel emotion stronger than any species in the galaxy. A human child is like a pure source of feeling. No fear, no lies, no hidden intent. So that is why they trust her," the Empress murmured softly. The advisor nodded nervously. "Dragons fear adults because adults always bring control, pressure, rules, and commands. But a child brings only warmth and innocent curiosity." The Empress looked back at Mia. The baby crawled closer to Spark, who gently lowered his head so she could pat his nose. The gesture looked so natural, like they had been born to be together. But before the Empress could think further, the palace walls shook violently. Boom! Dust fell from the ceiling. A fiery vibration rolled across the floor. "Your Majesty!" the guard shouted again, terrified. "Enemy boarding pods just hit the outer wall." The Empress's eyes blazed. "They dare invade my palace?" She lifted her spear, now glowing with molten gold. Flames twisted around the blade, as if alive. But behind her, the dragons also reacted. Their scales brightened. Their wings rose. Their small bodies shook with instinctive fury. They were ready to fight. Mia, however, did something completely unexpected. She crawled forward and hugged Pyra's leg. Pyra instantly calmed. Her fire dimmed. Her roar softened. The Empress saw it and felt a chill run through her. This child, she can control their emotion instantly. And then something else happened. Mia looked directly at the Empress, as if trying to understand the fear in the room. Her innocent gaze shifted to the locked doors. Her tiny hands pressed together, as if sensing the tension. The dragons reacted too. Pyra inhaled deeply. Spark lowered his head to the ground. Grumble crouched low, ready, but not to attack, to protect. Their eyes glowed with a strange ancient energy, something even the Empress, in her 1,000 years of life, had never seen in such young dragons. "Your Majesty," whispered an old advisor, who had been silent until now, "I believe the child is unlocking something very old in them." The Empress stared. "Old? How old?" "Older than your empire," he said softly. Long before the dragon clans ruled the stars, dragons formed bonds with beings who carried pure emotion. It made them stronger, but also more emotional, more connected. It was powerful and dangerous. The Empress narrowed her eyes. "Are you suggesting the child is awakening ancient dragon instinct?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, if this continues, they may soon protect her with their lives." As if to prove his words, Pyra suddenly stepped in front of Mia, placing herself between the baby and the shaking doors. Spark and Grumble followed, forming a solid wall of scaled bodies. The Empress felt her chest tighten. This was more than instinct. This was devotion. The door shook again, then burst open. Smoke filled the room. Armed alien soldiers poured through the opening, weapons glowing blue. Their helmets shined with the mark of the rival faction. The lead soldier pointed at Mia. "There, take the human child." The Empress moved like lightning. Her spear burst into flames, and she blocked the path. "You will not touch her," she growled. But the soldiers were not afraid. "The child is a threat to the galaxy," one shouted. "She must be taken." The Empress lunged, her spear slicing through the air with burning force. But the dragons reacted faster. Pyra roared, a roar far too powerful for her age. The flames shook the walls. Spark blasted a stream of blue fire across the floor, forcing the soldiers to jump back. Grumble slammed into ground with such force that cracks spread across the stone. The soldiers hesitated. "What kind of hatchlings are these?" one whispered. Mia crawled forward, lifting her tiny hands. She didn't understand the danger, but she felt the fear. The dragons felt her emotion. They responded instantly. Their flames rose, their wings expanded, their growls deepened. The Empress stood beside them, an unstoppable line of dragon fire and royal fury. "You wanted the child?" the Empress said coldly, then faced the might of dragons. The soldiers prepared to attack. The dragons prepared to defend. Mia looked up at the Empress with innocent eyes. The Empress suddenly realized something terrifying. If the child was harmed, the dragons would burn the galaxy. The doors began to close behind the soldiers. And the real battle began. The hatchery became a battlefield of fire and smoke. Blue-armored soldiers stormed inside with glowing weapons raised, their helmets reflecting the flames around them. They had come for one target. One tiny human baby who sat on the warm floor, confused but calm. "Mia." The dragon sensed a danger instantly. Pyra stepped in front of her with a growl, so deep it shook dust from the ceiling. Spark spread his wings wide, forming a shield. Grumble hissed with such force that the flames in the room bent toward him as if answering a call. The Empress lifted her blazing spear, standing taller than the soldiers, her eyes like molten gold. "You make a grave mistake," she warned. Her voice could have melted iron, but the lead soldier didn't flinch. "The human child is a threat to the galaxy. She must be removed." "Removed," the Empress repeated slowly, dangerously. "You mean taken or killed?" The soldier hesitated. That was his mistake. Spark burst forward with a roar, a river of blue flame chasing the intruders back. The soldiers shielded their faces as the floor turned red-hot. "Hold the dragons back," one soldier yelled. But no one could hold them back. Pyra swept her tail with shocking power, sending two soldiers flying into the wall. Grumble slammed his body forward, breaking the soldiers' formation like a living missile. They were young, but dragon strength was not measured in years. It was measured in instinct, and their instinct screamed one thing: protect Mia. The Empress struck next. Her spear sliced through the air, trailing fire. She moved faster than the soldiers could aim. Within seconds, she cut through their lines and forced them back toward the broken doorway. But even as she fought, the Empress kept glancing at Mia. The child was not crying. She watched everything with wide eyes, sensing emotions but not understanding them. Then something strange happened. Every time Mia looked at a soldier, the dragons reacted before he moved. Every time Mia felt fear, the dragon's fire surged. Every time Mia felt calm, the dragons hesitated. The Empress narrowed her eyes. She is influencing them in real time. A scientist hiding behind a pillar whispered, "Your Majesty, she is syncing with their emotional state. This is not normal empathy. This is a bond." The Empress did not answer. She couldn't. Not while swinging her spear to block a soldier trying to get close to Mia. But the truth was rising inside her like a storm. The child was controlling dragons. Without trying. Without training. Without even knowing what she was doing. That kind of power could reshape the galaxy or destroy it. Suddenly, a new explosion rocked the hatchery. The wall cracked. Rubber flooring tore apart. Stone pillars shook violently. From the smoke stepped a massive figure. A tall alien commander wearing heavy armor with glowing runes. He was not like the others. His presence alone made the hatchlings snarl. The Empress hissed, "So, the traitor shows himself." The commander smirked. "We warned you, Empress. The child is too dangerous." "She is a baby," the Empress growled. "She is a weapon," he corrected coldly. "And she will tip the balance of power." He lifted a strange device glowing with purple energy. "This is an emotion disruptor. It breaks the bond between creatures. One blast, and those dragon hatchlings will lose control." The Empress froze. The dragons froze. Even Mia stopped babbling. The commander pointed the device at the child. "Step aside, Empress." She raised her spear, voice low and deadly. You'll not touch her. Before anyone else could move, the device activated. A purple shockwave blasted across the room. The flames in the hatchery flickered. The dragons wailed in pain. Stumbling, Pyra collapsed to her knees. Spark clawed at the ground. Grumble thrashed, confused and terrified. The bond was breaking. Mia let out a small cry. That cry changed everything. The dragons reacted instantly, pushing through the pain. Their fire roared back to life, not wild but focused. Purple energy sparked around them like electric lightning. Something ancient awakened in their tiny bodies. The commander stared in disbelief. This is impossible. The Empress smirked despite the danger. You underestimate dragon instinct. And you underestimate the child who awakened it. Mia crawled forward, tears in her eyes. She reached out her hand, not toward the soldiers, not toward the Empress, but toward the dragon babies. The moment her fingertips brushed Pyra's scale, a blast of golden light erupted. Not fire, not magic, something new. The shock wave threw every soldier backward. The purple disruptor device shattered. The commander slammed into the wall, armor cracking. When the light faded, Mia sat on the floor again, blinking. The dragons stood around her, stronger, fiercer, glowing with a new energy. Their scales shimmered with gold patterns. Their eyes burned brighter. The bond had not broken. It had evolved. The soldiers stared in terror. No, the commander whispered. This child must not live. She will unite dragons. She will make them unstoppable. He reached for his blade, but Pyra moved faster. Her roar shook the entire palace. Fire spiraled around her like a living serpent. The Empress stepped forward, spear burning brighter than ever. No one threatens a child or my hatchlings. Outside the shattered hatchery, more ships approached the palace. The real war for Mia had just begun. The golden shockwave faded, leaving the hatchery glowing like the heart of a sun. The walls shimmered with heat. Fractured stone hissed under the pressure of dragon fire. In the center of the room, Mia sat unharmed, blinking softly as if waking from a dream. The dragon hatchlings, Pyra, Spark, and Grumble, surrounded her like living guardians. Their bodies pulsed with new patterns of golden light, as if ancient dragon runes had awakened beneath their scales. The Empress had seen many things in her long life. Wars, rebellions, cosmic storms, even the fall of ancient empires. But she had never seen evolution happen in a heartbeat. The soldiers lay scattered across the floor, too afraid to rise. The commander, his armor cracked, stared at Mia with rage in his eyes. This child, he hissed, is the end of the balance. If dragons bond with her, they will no longer follow you, Empress. They will follow her. The Empress stepped forward, fire building in her armor. They follow no one. They protect the one who protects them. That is dragon instinct. Instinct? The commander coughed. No, this is power, ancient power, and you know it. The Empress didn't speak, but her silence was answer enough. He continued, voice trembling with fear and prophecy. If this bond grows, humans and dragons will unite. Your empire will change. Your throne will weaken. A soft sound echoed through the room. Mia, she crawled toward the Empress, her tiny hands reaching. The Empress froze. Never had a child, human or dragon, approached her with such innocence. Pyra nudged Mia forward gently, encouraging her. The Empress knelt. Mia touched her armored knee. A warmth spread through the Empress's heart. Something she had not felt in centuries. Something dangerously close to affection. The commander saw it and laughed bitterly. So that is it. The mighty Empress falls for a human child. The Empress rose sharply, eyes blazing. I do not fall, she said coldly. I choose. With one swift motion, she pointed her flaming spear at the commander. I choose to protect the child. The commander's eyes widened. Then you choose war. Outside the palace, the sky lit up with streaks of blue fire as enemy ships descended. Thousands of them. The rival faction had predicted the Empress's choice, and they were ready. The Empress received a message in her ear device. Your Majesty, enemy fleets are surrounding the capital. They demand the surrender of the human child. A heavy silence settled over the hatchery. The soldiers regained their strength and slowly stood. Some were loyal to the Empress. Others looked uncertain. For the first time, whispers filled the room. Should we protect the child? She is dangerous. She might save us. She might doom us. The Empress heard all of it. She walked to the center of the room, looking at her hatchlings, then at Mia. "Listen," she commanded, voice strong enough to silence the storms. "This child has awakened something in dragons that we believed lost. She brings peace to their hearts and power to their fire. But power is dangerous," an advisor protested. "Power is only dangerous," the Empress said softly, when guided by fear. She looked at Mia, who stared back with innocent curiosity. "This child does not bring fear. She brings warmth." The dragons growled gently in agreement, their golden scales shining brighter. But the moment of peace shattered when the palace shook violently. The doors burst open. A royal messenger ran in, pale with terror. "Your Majesty, the enemy has breached the second defense ring. They are sending elite squads. They are coming to take the child by force." The Empress clenched her jaw. She had faced rebellion. She had faced assassins. She had faced entire civilizations. But never had she faced a decision with such heavy weight. Protect the child and risk war across the galaxy. Or surrender the child and rip apart the bond that had softened the dragons and her own heart. Her instincts told her the truth. Giving up the child meant losing something far greater than a war. It meant losing the future. She took a long breath and lifted her spear high. "Prepare the palace for full defense," she ordered. The guards bowed. The advisors gasped. The soldiers panicked. The Empress continued, voice deep and unshakable. "The child is under protection of the dragon throne. Any who harm her will face the fire dragons." A roar answered her proclamation, not from the hatchlings, from the entire palace. Adult dragons, massive, powerful, ancient, awakened from their nests across the mountain. Their cries echoed like thunder, responding to the hatchlings' golden glow. The commander's face drained of all color. "You fool," he whispered. "You have united the dragons." The Empress smiled without warmth. "No," the child did. Golden light streamed to the broken walls as the adult dragons took flight outside, ready to defend the capital. The sky became a dome of wings and fire. Inside the hatchery, the enemy commander made one desperate move. He lunged toward Mia, blade raised. But Pyra moved faster. Spark followed. Grumble crashed into him. The Empress finished it by slamming her spear into ground, sending a wave of fire that knocked the commander unconscious. Silence returned. Mia looked up at the Empress again. This time, the Empress lifted her. She held the child close, feeling her warmth. Her choice was made. Across the galaxy, every faction received the same message. The child of dragons is under royal protection. And dragons never forget loyalty. They never forgive threats. They never abandon their own. War drums echoed in the void. The galaxy was changing. And Mia, tiny, innocent Mia, was now at its blazing center. War did not begin in a single day. It began with whispers. Whispers that a human child had awakened ancient dragon power. Whispers that dragons, once wild and untamable, now listened to a girl barely able to walk. Whispers that the dragon empress herself held the child like her own daughter. Across the galaxy, fear spread faster than fire. But inside the dragon palace, something far greater was growing. Years passed. Mia grew from a baby into a small child with bright eyes and a soft laugh that echoed through every hall. The hatchlings grew at her. Pyra, fierce and protective. Spark, curious and clever. Grumble, strong and loyal. Where Mia walked, 3 dragons followed. Where Mia played, fire curled harmlessly around her fingers like dancing lights. The Empress watched her grow with a blend of pride and wonder. Mia had become part of the palace, part of the dragons, part of the Empress's life. But peace could not last forever. One night, when Mia was 5 years old, the sky above the capital turned dark. Enemy ships surrounded the mountain, casting shadows over dragon nests. Their red lights pierced the clouds like angry eyes. The Empress stood at the highest balcony, spear glowing. The adult dragons circled above her. The hatchlings, now young dragons, stood behind Mia like towering guardians. War had come, and Mia stood at its center. The enemy broadcast echoed across the sky. Surrender the human girl, or the galaxy burns. The Empress didn't blink. No, the enemy fleet fired. Explosions shook the mountain. Flames tore through the air. The palace trembled like a living creature. Mia stumbled, but Pyra caught her with her wing. Sparks shielded her from falling debris. Grumble roared so loudly the clouds rippled. The Empress stepped forward, kneeling in front of Mia. Mia listened carefully. Mia looked up, frightened but brave. You carry something special, the Empress said softly. Something the galaxy fears. But dragons do not fear it. They embrace it. And so must you. Mia swallowed. I don't want to hurt anyone. The Empress placed her hand gently on Mia's cheek. I know. That is why you are the one who can save us. The enemy ships fired again. A massive blast headed straight for the palace. Before it could hit, a shield of golden energy erupted around Mia. A bright dome of ancient dragon magic. The blast vanished on impact. The Empress stared. So the legend was true. Mia looked down at her glowing hands, confused. What did I do? You awakened the heart fire, the Empress whispered. The energy born from dragon bonds. The young dragons stepped closer. Their scales glowed the same gold. Their eyes were fierce but calm. The bond between them, and Mia pulsed like one heartbeat. Another attack shook the palace. This time, Mia didn't hesitate. She lifted her tiny hands. The dragons lifted their wings. Energy flowed between them, bright, warm, unstoppable. A wave of golden fire erupted from the palace. It swept across the sky, smashing into enemy ships. Metal melted. Engines failed. The fleet broke apart like dust in a storm. The Empress watched in awe as the child she protected now protected the entire empire. But Mia suddenly gasped. The power was too much for her small body. She staggered, knees shaking. The golden glow trembled. Pyra rushed to her. Spark pressed his forehead to Mia's hand. Grumble wrapped his tail around her waist, anchoring her. You are not alone, the Empress said firmly. Let the dragons carry some of the strength. The connection deepened. Mia's fear faded. The dragon's fire grew brighter. Not destructive, but alive. Beautiful. Ancient. They rose together, Mia and the dragons, until they hovered in the center of the palace courtyard. Golden fire swirled around them like a living storm. The enemy commander tried one last desperate strike. A massive cannon fired from the flagship, sending a beam of deadly energy toward the palace. Mia closed her eyes. Her voice shook the air, soft but absolute. Stop. The dragons roared with her. A pillar of gold erupted upward, meeting the enemy blast. Light exploded across the sky. The flagship split in half. Silence followed. The war was over in minutes. The dragons landed softly. Mia collapsed, trembling from exhaustion. The Empress ran to her, catching her before she fell. Mia looked up weakly. Did we win? The Empress smiled, a true smile rare and bright. Yes, little one, you saved us. But the story did not end there. In the days that followed, ambassadors from every corner of the galaxy came to witness the child who controlled dragons, but used her power to save, not conquer. Some feared her. Some respected her. Many worshipped her. But Mia remained the same gentle soul, laughing with dragons, feeding them, sleeping curled between their wings. The Empress made a proclamation that echoed through the stars. This child is not a weapon. She is the future, a bridge between dragons and all other races. And dragons, young and old, roared in agreement. Mia's legend grew. They called her the Heartfire Child, the Dragon Whisperer, the Human Ember. But to the dragons, she was simply Mia, their friend, their kin, their light. Years later, when Mia was older, she stood beside the Empress on the balcony of the rebuilt palace. Dragons circled above them like guardian stars. Mia whispered, Do you think the galaxy will ever accept us? The Empress placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. They already have. Dragons follow you. And dragons never forget warmth. Mia smiled, the sky filled with golden fire as dragons soar around her, celebrating the human child who changed their world forever. A human raised by dragons. A legend never to be forgotten.